Hey, what's up, guys? It's Tyron here. Welcome back to another episode of Little People Big World. And today I'm actually going to be telling you the story of the one time how a substitute teacher actually hated me. Now, it's a little bit of a long story, and I'm going to try to, make it as short as possible. So, the story kind of starts back. I would probably start saying it started back in like elementary school, like really back then. Probably like fourth or fifth grade, I had a substitute teacher. I'll probably name her Miss Smith for this story. But Miss Smith was an interesting substitute teacher. She was more of the hardcore, really not even close to being laid back substitute at all. She was just really mean and uptight completely. Even elementary school students, I really won't go into that because I hardly remember it, but I remember her being it, and she's the thing. How I know about it is because she's been at the school district that I was for years on end, like ever since the beginning of time, pretty much. But getting back to my senior year, I actually had this substitute a lot. I had Miss Smith quite a lot. In mainly my high school career, I had her just very little between like freshman to junior year. But senior year, I kind of interacted with her a lot more, any more in my whole entire life. And well, it was one day that it kind of all changed completely. So I was walking over to English class. It was actually my last period of the day. How I mentioned it in one of my previous videos, my fifth period was my last day because of the schedule that I had. So I was walking to my fifth period, which was an English class, and I was walking with my friends, and sometimes the substitutes stand outside the door and everything like that. And of course, she especially stood outside the door for one reason only. So my school, how it went down with my school is that we had a like ID. We had like ID pictures with like holding lanyards on it. So she was extremely strict on it, and a lot of kids wouldn't wear them. I always wore mine because it really wasn't an issue, and it felt like I didn't even have it on majority of the time. It's just there. It's a school rule, and I followed it. And the thing was, she would look at she before entering the room. She would always look at your ID to make sure it was you, because sometimes kids would, be stupid and get their friends and then see they have an ID in a way. So it was really dumb the way they did it, but I mean, she was a little extreme with that. So she checked our IDs at the door, and then we walked in, and the thing was, we weren't allowed to sit at our desk in the beginning with her. It was her own rule. It wasn't no school rule or anything. So she made us like stand up at the beginning, at like the front of the class where like the whiteboard was, and like lined up pretty much. And she made us, when she checked everyone in, and when the bell rang, like the tardy bell rang, and the bell rang for class, she would close the door and would tell us all to take our IDs off, and she would bring a desk over and we would pull all of our IDs on that one desk, and she would like write all of like the names down, and I guess take attendance like twice in a row. And then she would call us one by one to get our IDs, and then we would sit in our seats. The thing was, she made attendance 3 times. Now, if you counted, that was twice, and the third time is the part that really got interesting. So with my last name, it's actually being at the very beginning of the alphabet. When she called my name, it's like you raise your hand here, you all do that stuff. And I did that, and it was strange because she actually took like a really long pause afterwards. I said here again. She's like, I know you're here. And kind of a little bit of an attitude in a way like that. And I kind of just looked at her, and she looked at me. She like put her pencil down, she took off her glasses. It was like, okay, this some shit's about to happen. And while she looked at me and she asked me one question, she's like, are you Tyler's brother? And I'm like, yes I am. And a little story for this. 10 years beforehand, my brother and I went to the same school, but he graduated like 10 years before me. And the story kind of how it went, this was, he didn't have her as a substitute. He had her on a bus aide. She was a bus aide, and they didn't like each other. It wasn't nothing like bad my brother did. She just really hated my brother back then. And I guess she finally figured out, because like I said, I mentioned I had her so many times. I guess she didn't ever realized or came, to realization that him and I have the exact same last name. So I don't know. She just randomly figured it out one day, which was really weird. And, I answered yes. And then that's the part that really kind of scared me, because she kind of like stood up, slammed her hand on the desk, and told me, sit over here right now. Like she snapped her finger, and it, kind of was like, oh, okay. And then she like brought a desk over right by where the teacher's desk was. And I said, I followed what she did and everything. I was really kind about it. And then in front of the whole class and everything, this was crazy. And everyone knew me in that class. Everyone, like, we were all friends in that class completely. And she kind of, went over the story that I kind of told you a little bit, how what my brother did and all that stuff. And apparently, like, 10 years later, she's still, hated our family, apparently. But she said that, the whole thing, and she looked at me dead in the eyes after she sat down. She's like, I know what your brother did to me 9 years ago. And the thing what he did really was, actually, it was completely her fault. It wasn't his. So back then, a little side story again. So back like probably like 7-8 years ago, during the time of, when I was a senior, my brother was... So my brother, there was a, like, where we live, it's like kind of Tornado Alley in a way, and they were evacuating the high school when my brother was in high school. So he was calling my mom, and he was calling my mom to tell her that, he was on the way home, and he, saying he was safe and everything. That, there was a tornado, but it was nothing major, and they were evacuating the high school and all the remaining schools around it in the town. And he called my mom to just say, hey, I'm safe, I'm heading home right now. And he was on the bus, and what happened was that Miss Smith came up to my brother and grabbed his phone out of his hand. And because apparently she made up a whole rule about there's no cell phones on the bus, even though if it's an emergency, she won't let you have it. And my brother kind of just stood up and, like, he was going to fight or anything. He's like, can I have my phone back, please? Because, I'm talking to my mom. It's an emergency. She said, no, that's not happening. And she, took his phone completely and shoved it in her pocket. And that was a whole dilemma. My mom went up there and, discussed it with the principal, and all that stuff happened. So that was a whole ordeal, and I guess she got in trouble for it. My brother didn't get in trouble at all, and, but that was a whole dilemma. So back to what I was saying, what she was like, what your brother did to me 10 years ago, or like something like that. And she's like, I know your brother, and he's such a troublemaker. He's the worst kid to ever go here, and all that stuff. I knew that story. Like a long time ago, and I knew who Miss Smith was, of course. And what happened was, like, I just agreed with her. Was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And we kind of went on all class, like, and the thing was, because she would substitutes were supposed to watch over your class and stuff, but no, she like stared directly at me while I did a worksheet and stuff. And anytime I stopped or lifted my pencil up or anything, she's like, I'm gonna send you to the principal's office. Like, why? And she's like, because you're not doing your work. It was just, I had an itch. And she's like, that's a great excuse. And, she was just basically picking on me. And, I'm not the person to get, like, mad or upset or something like that. And one of my classmates, he was just, like, trying to defend me in a way like that. I was like, no, it's fine. Like, it's okay. I'll go to the principal's office. So I basically did, and I told him all that was happening. I told him, like, hey, I'm getting cyberbullied hardcore by, Miss Smith. And they're like, yeah, we know. And because the thing was, all the kind of the administrations was kind of the administration back then, like 10 years ago. I mean, it was a small school, like I've explained so many times before. And they're like, yeah, she's talked about your brother quite a bit. I was like, yeah, she really does hate me. And yeah. And then I walked back to class. They sent me back to class with a letter and stuff. And she's like, so did you get suspended? I was like, yeah, I'm expelled from school. So I'm going to, like, ask and have all my paperwork and all that, schoolwork and all that. And it was basically the end of the day. So, for me, so I just left pretty much. And it was about ready for the bell to ring. It was probably like 10 minutes from the bell from about ringing. I never had her again, probably till like a month and a half later, 2 months maybe. It was the same thing. It wasn't in my English class this time. It was actually my forensics class. And the thing was, for some odd reason, for my forensic class, we didn't have normal desks. We had, like, the circular tables with, like, a bunch of people. And the thing about my forensic class is I had no one in there that I was friends with. All the people in there were in my grade, but they were mainly all, like, the really smart kids and really, Hey Arnold kids. There we go. People that make A's and B's in school and, like, are stupid smart. And there's me, just a person that plays fucking video games. And, I never talked to anyone in there. Everyone knew who I was, but they didn't tease me or anything. But I loved my forensics class, and, she was in there. And where I was sitting was literally right next to the teacher's desk. And she did the exact same thing again that, I mentioned at the beginning, where she took all your, ID pictures and, all that stuff. And I was sitting right there, and she's like, out of randomly, she was like, why are you sitting here? And I'm like, well, this is my assigned seat. Why are you sitting next to it? Like, because, like, my chair was, like, literally next to it. Like, that was it. It wasn't even my desk. And she's like, you're not supposed to be sitting here. You guys have a test today. And you could be cheating off me. It was like, where am I supposed to sit? Because this whole class was like filled completely. And then she got one of the rolly chairs and told me to go sit by the like the cabinet area. And there was nowhere, so I had to literally do my test on my like lap. And I hated it, and it was a little bit of annoying. And then she told me to talk to her after class and everything. But when the bell rang, like I just sat there. And like I kept sitting there and stuff, and she really wouldn't acknowledge me until like the part when she looked up. She's like, what are you still doing here? I was like, you told me to wait after class. And she's like, who are you again? And I said my name again. She's like, oh, it's you. Like in that same tone of voice, like she I guess completely forgot. And then she went over the whole thing again when I told you guys that, you know, she hates my brother and all that stuff. And she's like, I never recognized you. It was like, I wear the same jacket pretty much every day, and I talk the same all the time. So yeah. And this kept going on for a while. It was kind of the same. If I told every single incident, it might be a boring story. But there was one incident that stood far and beyond, like higher up than anything I told, you know, you guys through the whole story. So there was one time, you know, my English teacher was out a lot for some reason. I don't know why. But it was, again, back to my English class, my 5th period, and it was the same thing all the time. It was the same thing. She didn't recognize me again. I sat in my normal seat and everything, and then she went over roll call, and it was basically the exact same thing, and she got pissed at me again because of my last name. And I didn't sit. The thing that was different was she didn't tell me to sit next to the teacher's desk. She called the whole administration staff, I mean the principal, vice principal, all of the people, like, you know, that are the administrators in there, the whole administrators, even the school's police officer too, the school's police officer as well, to come in and everything. And they all walk in there and stuff, and they're like, yeah, Miss Smith, what's the issue? And she pointed to me, didn't say a word, and they immediately recognized me, and all of them just sighed. They're like, what did he do? And she literally went into a lecture how that I should change my last name, because that's the only reason why she will not hate me, is to change my last name completely, and that I should actually abandon my family because apparently my last name is a completely disgrace to her. And she, you know, it was nothing like, I mean, major. Everyone, like, she was an older lady completely. She was not like a young lady at all, obviously. She was pretty high up there in her, you know, her age. And I guess she had, like, she didn't have mental issues, but it's kind of like, I don't know what was wrong with her. I really don't. But, you know, that's all what happened. And the administration staff, I guess, instead of taking me to the principal's office, they took her down there, and one of the administrators watched over our class while that whole lecture was going on with her. And apparently after that, she was never a sub again. I think she was still a bus aide, but she didn't really sub that much. But pretty much got a sub, I guess, I don't know, kicked out of being a sub, even by literally doing nothing. I literally did nothing except have a last name. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that story. I knew it was pretty damn long, and hopefully it was entertaining as much as the other stories were. I love doing these type of videos, and I do have a lot more, not of just me, but a lot of my friends. I'm starting to get a lot more of their information, mainly their story, how that is, and stuff like that, and permission for the stories, because they have some crazy-ass stories. So I'm probably going to do a lot more of those in the future, and hopefully you guys have an amazing day so far, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.